بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Point 20. استعن بإخوانك إذا علمت من نفسك أنها تضعف عن القراءة. He says, if you feel that you're too weak to read, you don't have the ability to focus and to concentrate, then seek the help of your colleagues. Seek the help of your brothers, your friends. Seek the help of your sisters, those who are in your class. Take a study partner, a study buddy, as we say. أحيانا تضعف في القراءة وحدك ولا تستطيع فلا بأس أن تستعين بأحد إخوانك. فبعض الإخوان إذا قرأ ينام ويقول لا أستطيع أن أقرأ أنام وأمل. لكن إذا كانت القراءة مداولة تقرأ صفحة ويقرأ صاحبك صفحة أو تقرأ أنت فصلا ويقرأ هو فصلا، لا شك أن هذا يعين على الرغبة في القراءة، بل قد يكون سببا في أن ينشط الطالب للقراءة في حال وحدته بعد أن كان لا يستطيع ذلك. The author says, no doubt, sometimes when you read by yourself, you may feel lack of motivation, lack of drive, lack of push. All right? So there's nothing wrong with you helping or seeking the help of your brothers, and it applies to sisters as well. Some people, when they read by themselves, they say, I get tired, I get sleepy, I get bored. So, bidnillahi ta'ala, get with one of your friends, one of your classmates. You read a page, he reads a page, you read a chapter, she reads a chapter, etc. He says, and this is going to help you. It's going to allow you to have a better understanding, better taste of reading, the skill of reading. And rather, it could be a means of you having the motivation and the drive to read when you're by yourself. So one benefit leads to another. Point number 21, قراءة العرض. He says here is reading briefly, just running through a book. All right? Speed reading, quote unquote. فمن أجل وأنفع الأشياء قراءة عرض المطولات. مثلا تقرأ صحيح البخاري قراءة عرض، وحبذا أن يكون معك أخ أو أكثر، ثم يقرأ كل منكم مجموعة من الأوراق حسب تقسيم معين بينكم أو حسب أبواب الكتاب ومباحثه. ومن فوائد هذه القراءة الجماعية الاستمرار والرغبة في الاجتماع للقراءة أو للفائدة وقراءة كثير من الكتب. He says here, when you run through a book, a big book like Sahih Bukhari, it's very good to do this, especially if you have someone that can help you out. You read a chapter, he reads a chapter, you read 10 pages, he reads 10 pages, like this and like that. He says, and this will, bidnillahi ta'ala, make you want to meet more with your friends, your classmates, your colleagues, and it will also give you the desire and the drive to read more books. So all reading is not meant to be slow. All reading is not meant to be investigative. Well, sometimes you just you just read through it, especially if it's a book of hadith. Now, point 22. الترويح عن النفس بقراءة بعض كتب الأدب، وذلك بالقراءة في بعض الكتب التي تتنوع في مادتها العلمية ما بين آداب وأشعار وقصص فيها نوع من الطرافة والدعابة، ففي ذلك طرد لما قد يعتري النفس من السآمة والملل، كما أن في ذلك زيادة في التوسع المعرفي. He says is to give yourself a break. Give yourself a bit of amusement when you read. Give yourself a chance to breathe. All right? Whether it's reading books of poetry, books of literature, books of stories, he says. Anything that has interesting facts in it. Something that's a means of like fun, a bit of amusement. طيب? He says this will prevent you from boredom. It'll stop you from being bored, being worn out. All right? And it will also expand the sphere of your knowledge. You have understanding of more books, more authors, and of more things. And you can relate to more things and bring those different things that you read back home to the Islamic sense or to the Sunnah sense. And this is very important. Point 23. بعض الناس عنده طاقة ولكنها مسخرة في غير موضعها. There are certain people who have energy. They have the ability to read, but they waste it. They spend their time and their energy in other things and in other places. Arifu, he says, he's talking about some youth here. He says, إنه حافظة وقدرة على الحفظ لكن لم يستغلها ولكن لم يستغلها استغلالا مفيدا بل سخرها في كثير مما لا ينفعه فتجده يحفظ مئات الأشعار والنوادر والفكاهات بينما تراه كثير الأخطاء عند قراءة قصار السور ناهيك عن أوساط السور وكذلك لا يحفظ شيء من أذكار الصباح والمساء والمنام وهذا تفريط منه ومن أعظم أسباب ذلك التفريط اشتغاله بمفضول عن فاضل. He says here, there are many people, they don't use what they have, the ability in a proper place. He says they'll read all types of poems, memorize all types of lines and different statements and things like this. All right, weird stories, interesting stories, funny stories, different things like this. He says, but when they read the small surahs out of the Quran, they make mistakes. Let alone the surahs that are a bit longer than the small ones. He says, and they don't memorize any supplications of the morning, of the day, when it's time to go to sleep, etc. He says, and from the reasons behind this is using one's time and one's energy in something which is less beneficial. And it may not necessarily be haram, but it's not beneficial or it's not as beneficial as it could be. ومن لطيف ما يذكر في هذا المقام ما أخرجه الخطيب البغدادي في كتابه شرف أصحاب الحديث بعد أن ساق إسناده إلى عثام بن علي قال سمعت الأعمش يقول إذا رأيتم الشيخ لم يقرأ القرآن ولم يكتب الحديث فاصفع له فإنه من شيوخ القمر. قال أبو صالح قلت لأبي جعفر ما شيوخ القمر؟ قال شيوخ دهريون يجتمعون في ليالي القمر يتذاكرون أيام الناس ولا يحسن أحدهم أن يتوضأ للصلاة. ولهذا يقول الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية ولهذا تجد من أكثر من سماع القصائد لطلب صلاح قلبه تنقص رغبته في سماع القرآن حتى ربما يكرهه وهذا مشاهد. ألا ترون بعض الناس يقرأ الجرائد مرة مرتين ويقرأ مجلات ولا يمل ساعة وساعتين ولو أخذ المصحف وقرأ فيه دقائق ضجر من ذلك وهذه مصيبة ومأساة فحاول أن تعود نفسك على قراءة ما ينفعك. Author says, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi gives us a story in his book Sharaf Ashab al-Hadith, the nobility of the people of Hadith. He quotes with this isnad going back to Atham ibn Ali, who said, I heard A'mash saying, whenever you see a sheikh who doesn't read the Quran, who doesn't write down the Hadith, he says, fasfa alah, which could be interpreted many things. It can mean slap or clap, like be amazed or feel sorry for some type of pity for this person. For lack of better translation, he says because he's from the Shuyukh al-Qamar, literally meaning scholars of the moon. He says, Abu Saleh said to Abu Ja'far, what is Shuyukh al-Qamar? Scholars of the moon, quote unquote. He says, Shuyukhun dahriyuna. He says, ancient sheikhs. He says, they grow old, they get together whenever it's a full moon, and they talk about, he says, ayyam an-nas, the days of the people. This one, this battle, this king, this leader, this scholar, this one and that one, so on and so forth. He says, and they can't even make the wudu in the correct way when it's time to pray. So just stop and think about the people today. How many people can talk about so many different things? They get together to talk about so many different things, and they don't know the basic fiqh in a proper way. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, for this reason, you find those who listen to qasaid. He says these poems, these long poems in abundance, that's all they want to listen to. He says they really don't have the desire to listen to the Quran at all. And he says perhaps when they do listen to it, they may dislike it. Waliyadhu billah. The author concludes the chapter by saying this is proven. You see some people who read newspapers, they'll read magazines 2-3 times. They'll sit for hours and hours in the cafe, in the coffee shop. Okay? They'll just read the news, talk about things. He says that if they picked up the mushaf and they start reading for a few minutes, they become tired, they become exhausted, they start yawning. All right? And he says this is a calamity, this is a misfortune. It's very sad. So don't be like this. Now just stop and think about it now. How many people, when they say, I can't study, when I'm on an airplane, when I'm traveling, I have to watch a movie. I can't read when I'm in a car. I can't read standing up when I'm in line. I can't study, it's too hot outside. Or I can't focus when I don't eat. Or I can't read when I'm, in this state or when I'm in this place. I have to be sitting down in this environment, so on and so forth. But they play with their phones. They'll read this. They'll look at this magazine. They'll read this newspaper. They'll talk gossip. They do so many things. But they can't have the patience to read the Mus'haf Sharif, to recite the Quran, to read a book of Hadith for 10 minutes. Okay? And this is one of the ways of filtering and sifting through people. And there was a time in which I would do this with certain brothers and sisters that would want to study. Some of them may want to tazkiyah, or they want to learn, and so on and so forth. I would say, all right, tell you, let's come and let's read. We'll just read this book first. Let's read Sahih al-Bukhari. And oftentimes, certain brothers, they would get tired. They would quit. They wouldn't show up. They wouldn't come to the masjid the next morning for Fajr. Or they wouldn't come to my house, to my library when I was in Medina. They would stop. As if the filtering system worked. If you don't have enough sabr to read a beneficial book for a couple of days or a week, if you don't have enough sabr, enough determination to read something like this, then you're not serious. Then you only want to waste my time. You want to come, you want to talk about this one, you want to get something, you want to leave, you want to abandon. You don't have no plans of continuing. So oftentimes people will come and they talk nonsense. One of the best ways of silencing them is to say, all right, let's read this book first. Let's study this. Let's make review of these surahs first. And then you'll see what's real and that which isn't real. Wallahu alam. That's the end of the chapter on reading. The next chapter, the author says, Kayfa tafham, how to understand, how to comprehend. Comprehending is no less important than reading and memorizing. All three must be there. You must have all three. You have to be able to, the ability to read. You have to have the ability to memorize. And you have to have the ability to understand. Not one is more important or less important than the other. They're all vital. If you just memorize facts, you can't explain them, you can't understand them, it's a problem. If you just sit with the scholars and you don't read the books, that's a problem. You read books without sitting with the scholars. It has to be a total balance. All three, land, air, and sea. He says, تقدم ذكر القواسم المشتركة كالدعاء والإخلاص والصبر والاحتساب وعدم اليأس إلى غير ذلك. فيضاف إلى هذا المبحث أيضا أن من أسباب الفهم بعد فضل الله تعالى أولا كثرة الاستغفار. ذكر بعض أهل العلم أن الاستغفار يعين على وضوح الغامض وعلى كشف المبهم، واحتج بقوله تعالى إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن للخائنين خصيما واستغفر الله. الآية. He says we've mentioned the general points for all three tiers. All right, we've mentioned supplication to Allah, sincerity, sabr, etc. All right, consistency, etc. Now we're going to talk about the things that are a bit specific to understanding. And these tangible things, after the bounty of Allah, first and foremost, he says, firstly is al-istighfar and abundance. It's to always seek Allah's forgiveness. There's some of the people of knowledge who say, and some of the people of knowledge who mention, that when a person makes abundant istighfar, it will allow his mind to be clear, him to have vivid vision. And that which is hidden, or that which is cloudy, that which is covered up, becomes lucid, becomes manifest. And the dalil that used for this is in the Quran al-Kareem in Surah An-Nisa. Allah says, indeed we have sent the book to you, O Muhammad, with truth. And we've sent it upon you for you to judge among men according to what Allah shows you. Do not fight, do not argue on behalf of the treacherous. Allah then says, وَاسْتَغْفِرِ and seek Allah's forgiveness. So they say Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned the forgiveness of Allah being sought after Allah says, بِمَا أَرَاكَ Allah, what Allah shows you. Now, the wajhul istidlal, it's not that clear, it's not that strong, it's not that lazim. However, the point is, when you make istighfar, you ask Allah to forgive you, then as a means of uplifting all things which are harmful, and all things which are beneficial being sent down upon you. Khairan inshallah. So always make istighfar. Before you read the book, before you give the class, before you give the khutbah, before you want to study, ask Allah to forgive you, to clear your mind and opening up your eyes. Bidnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, talab al-awni min Allah ta'ala al-isti'anatu billah. Seeking the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-isti'ana. يقول الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تأملت أنفع الدعاء فإذا هو سؤال العون على مرضاته سبحانه عز وجل ثم رأيت في الفاتحة إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah, he said that I would sit and I would reflect and ponder on the most beneficial supplications to make. And I finally came to the conclusion that it is to ask Allah to help you upon that which He loves, that which He's pleased with. And then I discovered that this supplication is in no place except Surah Al-Fatiha, on which Allah says the believers there to say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We seek your help, O Allah. Of course, you're the only one that we worship, and you're the only one whose help we ask for. Number 3, الترفق في الفهم وعدم العجلة. Says is to take your time and not to rush when you want to understand something. Take your time and avoid rushing when it's time to understand something. لا تتعجل فتجزم عند قراءتك للكتاب بأن هذا هو المراد من قول المؤلف أو هذا المراد من الفهم فإن الرفق ما صاحب شيء إلا زانه وما نزع من شيء إلا شانه كما صح ذلك عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ولذلك فالعجلة في تفهم الكلام والجزم القطعي قد يترتب عليه أن يقول صاحب الكتاب ما لم يقل. He says here, take your time and don't say decisively that this is what the author meant or this is the intended meaning, this is the objective. Don't say that too quickly. Take your time, slow down, be patient, be gentle, because whenever there's gentleness, a thing is beautified, and whenever there isn't gentleness, the thing is uglified, as it's been reported in the authentic hadith. He says, so rushing and being reckless and interpreting someone else's speech, and then the fruit of that is as wal jazm al qat'i, as you being 101% totally decisive, and this is what the author meant. This will end up in you lying upon someone and saying something that a person actually didn't say. You fabricating a statement upon someone. The author is going to mention some examples. We're not going to spend too much time, but I just, implore all of you to stop and think about 2017 and before 2017, but right now we're living in 2017, and just think about the da'wah scene, sahat al-da'wah, and how many people interpret someone else's speech according to what they want it to be, and rushing. And it's sad and it's unfortunate reality. It happens by students of knowledge, by du'ats, by translators, and also by scholars. It's a very long discussion, and the people, they have to see that this is not an accident, but it is an actual way of thinking. All right? It's a psychological disorder, is to just say what someone meant according to your desires, and it isn't scientifically proven, it isn't authentically proven, it isn't based off something which is real. All right? May Allah Azza wa Jal help us all. He says, وَأَسُوقُ لَكَ مِثَالًا يَتَعَلَّقُ بِهَذَا. He says, I'm going to give you a real life example of this. ذكر ابن حجر في فتح الباري أن بعض أهل العلم إذا لم يظهر له وجه مناسبة بين الحديث وبين تبويب البخاري فإنه ينفي وجود المناسبة أو قد يتكلف في إظهار مناسبة بعيدة عن مراد المؤلف رحمه الله تعالى وإليك هذا المثال. He says, Ibn Hajar رحمه الله, in his classic commentary on Sahih Bukhari, meaning Fath al-Bari, he mentioned that there are some of the other explainers or commentators of the book, or some of the people of knowledge who would read Sahih Bukhari, and whenever they couldn't find a connection between a chapter heading and a hadith, or a point of relativity between a chapter heading and a hadith, they would say that there isn't one, and it's just placed there haphazardly, or it's a shortcoming or a flaw or a mistake of Bukhari. There is no munasabah at all. He says, or some of them they would mention a weird and far-fetched interpretation to connect the hadith in the chapter that's far from what al-Bukhari had intended. وإليك هذا المثال, and this example is دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم على ميمونة رضي الله عنها وعندها ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما نائم فقال أنام الغليم. بوب البخاري رحمه الله هذا الحديث بقوله باب السمر في طلب العلم. وجاء بعض الشراح كما نقل ابن حجر فذكروا كلاما فيه ليس هناك وجه مطابقة. One day the Prophet ﷺ, he entered upon Maymuna radiallahu anha, and with her was Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas was sleeping, and the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Anam al-Ghulayim, has the young man went to sleep? Did he fall asleep? Imam al-Bukhari, he put a chapter heading on this hadith by saying, Babu Samar. He says, staying up at night to seek knowledge. To stay up at nighttime with the purpose of learning knowledge. So Ibn Hajar, he mentions that there were some explainers of the book that came and they said that there's no relativity, there's no connection between the hadith and the chapter heading. It makes no sense. The Prophet asked, was Ibn Abbas sleep? And then Ibn Bukhari says to stay up at night to seek ilm. He says it doesn't make sense, it's not connected. قال ابن حجر والصواب أن منهج البخاري رحمه الله أن يبوب على الحديث وشاهد التبويب في الحديث في موضع آخر، أي حتى يحث طالب العلم على تقصي أطراف الحديث. وجاء في هذا الحديث في موضع آخر رواه البخاري فجلس مع أهله ساعة. فإذا كان بعض شراح الحديث رحمهم الله تعالى لم يوافقوا على أفهامهم مع سعة علمهم ورسوخهم فكيف بطالب العلم المبتدئ؟ وبكل حال إذا قرأت كتابا فلا تقل قصد المؤلف كذا، قد يكون قصده غير ما تريد، لكن تعنى واستشر مشايخك وطلاب العلم حتى تستفيد ولا تنسب خطأ لأهل العلم. Ibn Hajar, he says, the correct understanding is that Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala sometimes he'll mention a chapter heading and then he'll mention a hadith and a specific point from the hadith, the shahid, all right? The specific point from the hadith may be in another place in his book. In other words, one hadith, he'll just take a piece of it and put it in this chapter. But the part which he actually wants and intends to show the connection is in another kitab. So this hadith, for example, he puts in Kitab al-Jihad, Babu Isti'dhan al-Abawain, seeking the parents' permission to go out and fight. And he'll just mention a piece of the hadith. And he'll mention another part of the hadith where actually has the connection in the kitab, for example, al-Musaqa, giving water, pouring water, things like this, irrigation, tayyib, mathalan. And Ibn Hajar, he says the purpose of this is to push and to drive the student of knowledge to figure it out and find it himself. And for the student of knowledge to exert himself and to diligently make himself look and read it. Look at this beautiful speech and this beautiful methodology. Imam al-Bukhari, he didn't want his book to be a simple, easy book for everybody to just pick up and get the faida like that. No. Imam al-Bukhari had a unique taste. He had a fancy taste. He wanted people to respect and to appreciate his work. And you have to find, I'm going to give you a clue, that's it. A trail of breadcrumbs. The rest you have to find yourself. Okay? A riddle, whatever, however you want to call it. That's how Imam al-Bukhari would write his book oftentimes. Sometimes it would be obvious, but many times he would do it like this intentionally to hide it from the seeker. Imam al-Bukhari, Allah Alam, as if he knew that there will come people that are hasty and that want instant gratification. I want it right now and this doesn't make any sense and it's unclear. As if he knew this and Allah knows best. Did Allah show him this? Only Allah knows. Talking about modern times, there are many brothers and sisters, they contact us and they say, Jazakallah khairan for the Hadith Disciple page. It's a major channel, it's amazing, we've benefited so much, may Allah reward you, so on and so on and so forth. And oftentimes many of these brothers and sisters, they say, but oftentimes the titles are unclear. The 5 minutes of faida or the khutbahs, they're unclear. They have, strange names or exotic names, and oftentimes people can't find it. They can't get it when they're looking for something. So you should change it and give a different name and have a specific description in the description box. And we tell them, Jazakallah khairan for your advice. As far as the lessons, then that's one thing. As far as the lectures, then that's one thing. As far as the khutbahs and the 5 minutes of fa'idas, then it has to be like that because that's the style. It's not meant to just read it and find it. We want you to listen to the khutbah, to listen to the lecture, to listen to the class, listen to the fa'idah, and find it and figure it out. Use your mind just a bit, use your wit just a bit, and perhaps you'll be able to appreciate the exoticness. Perhaps you'll be able to appreciate the fine style and what we're saying and the story behind it and how it is related and connected into the modern times, the modern culture, and the modern cliches, etc. And we don't want every single thing to just be simple, basic, and boring like everybody else. There are 50 million channels that have a basic, simple title. The virtue of this, the excellence of that, the importance of this, that. That's not how we want 5 minutes of fa'idah to be. That's not how we want our khutbahs to be. We want them to be different. And Hadith Disciple is a unique channel. And if you're looking for orthodox, plain, simple, basic, like everything else, then I'm telling you right now, and there's no better way of taking it from the horse's mouth, as they say, you're on the wrong channel on YouTube. If you want regular, simple, basic, plain, like everybody else, that's not us. That's not the intention of us. Some things are simple, some things are plain, many things aren't. So if you want it to be a specific way, if you want it to determine and dictate how it should be, then you should not be a Hadith disciple. And alhamdulillah, we learned this from Imam al-Bukhari and from many other of the people of knowledge of past and of present. It's to get the person to work and to use their minds just a bit to have a better appreciation for the art and for the skill. The author, he says, so therefore, when there are some commentators of hadith, if they themselves, even though they have a great amount of knowledge and a great amount of, he says, rusukh, firmly grounded in ilm, may Allah have mercy upon them, if they don't necessarily get it all of the time, and the other ulama don't agree with how they interpreted Bukhari, he says, then what about a beginning student of knowledge? What about a beginning student of knowledge? He says, no matter what the case is, whenever you read a book, he says, do not rush and say that this is what the person meant, that's what the person meant, he didn't mean this, so on and so forth. Don't do it hastily. He says, seek the help of your teachers, your mashayikh. Seek the help of the students of knowledge, and that way you can benefit, and you'll be far from attributing a mistake to someone or something that's wrong that they actually didn't say. As we said before, we're not going to spend no time on that. Just think about it and connect it. We can't read these books and not relate to our state and the reality of things today. Just look at this speech right here and how many people make this mistake. He meant this. He said this. He intended that. This is what he said. They cut and they paste. They take things from an untrustworthy person, someone who isn't accurate, someone who hates and envies this person, and the list goes on. And then they say, these are his mistakes. This is akhta. This is his khata he made in Minhaj. He's reviling the scholars. And he said this about the Sahaba, and kada, and kada, and kada, and kada. In actuality, that's not what the person said. Or if he actually said words, that's not what he meant. And it was a different way of understanding it, etc. Number 4, he says, التدرج في القراءة, progressively reading. Reading in progressive stages and steps. Now, this is very similar to what we mentioned before. And perhaps the author, he could have just summarized this point. All right? He says, التدرج من أعظم أسباب الفهم. فلا تبدأ بالمطولات في أول الطريق فإن هذا قد يصيبك بنوع من الضجر والملل. ولكن تمهل وعليك بالترفق. وكل ما كان الكتاب مختصرا كان ذلك أنفع لك في نفسك وأنفع لك في من تؤدي العلم لهم. He says, taking your time step by step is from the greatest ways of getting proper understanding. Don't start off with the long, big books. You become bored, you become tired, you lose your focus. Take your time, be easy, be gentle. And whenever the book is smaller and simpler, it is more beneficial for you. And it's more beneficial for those who you're teaching. And the author, he mentioned this before. Okay? He says, وهذا مشاهد فمثلا بعض الناس إذا أراد أن يحفظ في الحديث يبدأ بالصحيحين أو اللؤلؤ مرجان فيتعب وينقطع وهو في أول الطريق. لكن بعضهم يبدأ مثلا بالأربعين النووية فإذا أشعر أو فإذا شعر أنه أتقنها وقد حفظ متنا كاملا, he says, تشجع فازداد ترقيا إلى متن آخر وهكذا. وكذلك الأمر في العقيدة. لو بدأت مثلا باللامية لشيخ ابن تيمية رحمه الله وهي من 16 بيتا فإنك إذا حفظتها وأتقنتها شعرت أنك حفظت متنا مستقلا فتتشجع لما بعده. Author, he says, this is something which is proven. There's some people who start off memorizing hadith with, let's say, for example, the Sahihain or Lu'lu Marjan. He says they start off, they get tired, they get exhausted. All right? He says, but some people, they begin with 40 hadith nawi, and then after they've memorized the book and they locked it down, they've perfected it, they feel braver, they have more strength to take on and tackle something bigger and better, so on and so forth. And the same applies to Aqidah. If someone memorized the Lamiyah poem, which is only 16 lines of Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he memorized it, he precisely locks it down, then bidnillahi ta'ala, he has something that's tangible under his belt. And he can memorize, he has the confidence to memorize something that is bigger now. Khairan, inshallah. That's the end of that point, which we'll stop here. Some of the people now say that the book Lamiyah was not actually written by Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. It's an argument and discussion. Is that poem actually written by him or not? What's important is the point of the author is lucid. Is that when you take on a small piece, it leads you to a bigger piece, bidnillahi ta'ala. And that's something that we previously mentioned in the first 2 chapters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We ask Allah to give success to all of the knowledge seekers and to help them and to guide them and to give them strength. Allahumma ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina Muhammad.